Welcome to Wisdom Storybooks. In this video, I will be reading Genesis chapters 11 through 21. Please like and subscribe if you find this content beneficial. Thank you. Genesis chapter 11. The whole earth was of one language and of one speech. It happened as they traveled from the east, that they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they settled there. And they said to one another, "Come, let us make bricks and burn them thoroughly." They had brick for stone, and they used tar for mortar. They said, "Come, let us build ourselves a city and a tower whose top reaches to the sky. And let us make ourselves a name, lest we be scattered abroad on the surface of the whole earth." And God came down to see the city and the tower that humankind was building. And God said, "Look, they are one people, and they all have one language. And this is what they begin to do. So now nothing which they plan to do will be too difficult for them. Come, let us go down and there confuse their language, that they may not understand one another's speech." Then God scattered them abroad from there on the surface of all the earth. So they ceased building the city. Therefore its name was called Babel, because there God confused the language of all the earth. From there he scattered them over the face of the whole earth. These are the generations of Shem. Shem was 100 years old and became the father of Arpachshad 2 years after the flood. Shem lived 500 years after he became the father of Arpachshad and fathered sons and daughters. And Arpachshad lived 135 years and became the father of Kenan. And Arpachshad lived 430 years after he became the father of Kenan and fathered sons and daughters. And Kenan lived 130 years and became the father of Shelah. And Kenan lived 330 years after he had become the father of Shelah and fathered sons and daughters. Shelah lived 130 years and became the father of Eber. And Shelah lived 403 years after he became the father of Eber and fathered sons and daughters. Eber lived 134 years and became the father of Peleg. Eber lived 370 years after he became the father of Peleg and fathered sons and daughters. Peleg lived 130 years and became the father of Rehu. Peleg lived 209 years after he became the father of Rehu and fathered sons and daughters. Rehu lived 132 years and became the father of Serug. Rehu lived 207 years after he became the father of Serug and fathered sons and daughters. Serug lived 130 years and became the father of Nahor. Serug lived 200 years after he became the father of Nahor and fathered sons and daughters. Nahor lived 79 years and became the father of Terah. Nahor lived 129 years after he became the father of Terah and fathered sons and daughters. Terah lived 70 years and became the father of Abram, Nahor, and Haran. Now these are the generations of Terah. Terah became the father of Abram, Nahor, and Haran became the father of Lot. And Haran died before his father Terah in the land of his birth in Ur-Kasdim. And Abram and Nahor took wives. The name of Abram's wife was Sarai, and the name of Nahor's wife Milcah, the daughter of Haran, who was also the father of Iscah. And Sarai was barren; she had no child. And Terah took Abram his son, Lot the son of Haran his grandson, and Sarai his daughter-in-law, his son Abram's wife. And with them he set out from Ur-Kasdim to go into the land of Canaan. But when they came to Haran, they settled there. And the days of Terah were 205 years, and Terah died in Haran. Genesis chapter 12. Now God had said to Abram, "Go out from your country and from your relatives and from your father's house, to the land that I will show you, and I will make of you a great nation, and I will bless you and make your name great, and you will be a blessing, and I will bless those who bless you, and I will curse those who treat you with contempt. And through you all the families of the earth will be blessed." So Abram left as God had told him, and Lot went with him. Abram was 75 years old when he departed from Haran. Abram took Sarai his wife, Lot his brother's son, and all their possessions that they had accumulated, and the people whom they had acquired in Haran. And they left to go to the land of Canaan. And they came to the land of Canaan. And Abram passed through the land to the place of Shechem, to the oak of Moreh. At that time the Canaanites were in the land. Then God appeared to Abram and said to him, "I will give this land to your offspring." He built an altar there to God who appeared to him. He left from there to the mountain on the east of Bethel and pitched his tent, having Bethel on the west and Ari on the east. There he built an altar and called on the name of God. And Abram traveled on, continuing toward the Negev. There was a famine in the land. So Abram went down into Egypt to sojourn there, because the famine was severe in the land. It happened, when he had come near to enter Egypt, that he said to Sarai his wife, "Look, I know what a beautiful woman you are. It will happen when the Egyptians will see you that they will say, 'This is his wife.' And they will kill me, but they will let you live. Please say that you are my sister, that it may be well with me for your sake, and that I may live because of you." It happened that when Abram had come into Egypt, the Egyptians saw that the woman was very beautiful. The princes of Pharaoh saw her and praised her to Pharaoh, and the woman was taken into the household of Pharaoh. He dealt well with Abram for her sake, and he acquired sheep, cattle, male donkeys, male servants, female donkeys, and camels. But God plagued Pharaoh and his house with great and grievous plagues because of Sarai, Abram's wife. Pharaoh summoned Abram and said, "What is this that you have done to me? Why did you not tell me that she was your wife? Why did you say, 'She is my sister,' so that I took her to be my wife? Now therefore, look, your wife is before you. Take and go." Pharaoh commanded men concerning him, and they sent him away with his wife and all his possessions. Genesis chapter 13. Abram went up out of Egypt, he, his wife, and all his possessions, and Lot with him into the Negev. Abram was very rich in livestock, in silver, and in gold. He went on his journeys from the Negev even to Bethel, to the place where his tent had been at the beginning between Bethel and Ari, to the place where he had first built the altar. And there Abram called on the name of God. Lot also, who went with Abram, had flocks and herds and tents. The land was not able to support them while they stayed together, for they had so many possessions that they were unable to remain together. There was a strife between the herdsmen of Abram's livestock and the herdsmen of Lot's livestock. And the Canaanite and the Perizzite lived in the land at that time. Abram said to Lot, "Please, let there be no strife between me and you, and between my herdsmen and your herdsmen. For we are relatives. Isn't the whole land before you? Please separate yourself from me. If you go to the left hand, then I will go to the right, or if you go to the right hand, then I will go to the left. Lot lifted up his eyes and saw all the plain of the Jordan, that it was well watered everywhere, like the garden of God, like the land of Egypt, in the direction of Zohar. This was before God destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. So Lot chose the plain of the Jordan for himself. Lot traveled east, and they separated from each other. Abram lived in the land of Canaan, and Lot lived in the cities of the plain, and moved his tent as far as Sodom. Now the people of Sodom were evil, sinning greatly against God. And God said to Abram after Lot had departed from him, "Now lift up your eyes, and look from the place where you are, northward and southward and eastward and westward. For all the land which you see I will give to you and to your offspring forever. I will make your offspring as the dust of the earth, so that if one can count the dust of the earth, then your offspring also could be counted. Arise, walk through the land in its length and in its breadth, for I will give it to you." Abram moved his tent and came and lived by the oaks of Mamre, which are in Hebron, and built an altar there to God. Genesis chapter 14. It happened in the days of Amraphel, king of Shinar, Arioch, king of Elasar, Kedorlaomer, king of Elam, and Tidal, king of Goyim, that they made war with Birah, king of Sodom, and with Bersha, king of Gomorrah, Shinab, king of Admar, and Shemeber, king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, that is Zohar. All these joined together in the valley of Siddim, that is the Salt Sea. 12 years they served Kedorlaomer, and in the 13th year they rebelled. In the 14th year, Kedorlaomer and the kings allied with him came and attacked the Rephaim in Ashtaroth Karnaim, and the Zuzim in Ham, and the Emim in Shaveh Kiriathaim, and the Horite in the hills of Seir to El Paran, which is near the desert. They returned and came to En Mishpat, that is Kadesh, and struck all the country of the Amalekites, and also the Amorites that lived in Hazazon Tamar. The king of Sodom, and the king of Gomorrah, and the king of Admar, and the king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, that is Zohar, came out. And they took up battle positions in the valley of Siddim against Kedorlaomer, king of Elam, and Tidal, king of Goyim, and Amraphel, king of Shinar, and Arioch, king of Elasar. 4 kings against the 5. Now the valley of Siddim was full of tar pits. And the king of Sodom and the king of Gomorrah fled, and they fell there, and those who remained fled to the hills. They took all the possessions of Sodom and Gomorrah, and all their food, and left. They also took Lot, Abram's brother's son, who lived in Sodom, and his possessions, and departed. One who had escaped came and told Abram the Hebrew. Now he lived by the oaks of Mamre, the Amorite, brother of Eshcol and brother of Aner, and these were allies of Abram. When Abram heard that his relative was taken captive, he mobilized his trained men, born in his house, 318, and pursued as far as Dan. He divided his forces against them at night, he and his servants, and attacked them, and pursued them to Hobah, which is north of Damascus. He brought back all the possessions, and also brought back his relative Lot and his possessions, as well as the women and the other people. The king of Sodom went out to meet him, after his return from the defeat of Kedorlaomer and the kings who were with him at the valley of Shaveh, that is, the king's valley. Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought out bread and wine. Now he was priest of God Most High. He blessed him and said, "Blessed be Abram by God Most High, maker of heaven and earth. And blessed be God Most High, who has delivered your enemies into your hand." And he gave him 1/10 of everything. Now the king of Sodom said to Abram, "Give me the people and take the possessions for yourself." But Abram said to the king of Sodom, "I take an oath to God Most High, maker of heaven and earth, that I will not take a thread nor a sandal strap nor anything that is yours, lest you should say, 'I have made Abram rich.' I will accept nothing from you except that which the young men have eaten and the portion of the men who went with me, Anah, Eshcol, and Mamre. Let them take their portion." Genesis chapter 15. After these things the word of the Lord came to Abram in a vision, saying, "Do not be afraid, Abram. I am your shield. Your reward will be very great." And Abram said, "Lord, what will you give me, seeing I go childless? And the heir of my estate is Eliezer of Damascus." Then Abram said, "Look, to me you have given no offspring. And look, one born in my house is my heir." And look, the word of God came to him, saying, "This man will not be your heir, but he who will come forth out of your own body will be your heir." And he brought him outside and said, "Look now toward the sky and count the stars, if you are able to count them." And he said to him, "So will your descendants be." And he believed God, and it was credited to him as righteousness. And he said to him, "I am God, who brought you out of Ur-Kasdim to give you this land to possess." But he said, "Lord, how can I know that I will possess it?" And he said to him, "Bring me a heifer 3 years old, a female goat 3 years old, a ram 3 years old, a turtle dove, and a young pigeon." He brought him all of these and divided them in the middle and placed each half opposite the other. But he did not divide the birds, and the birds of prey came down on the carcasses. But Abram drove them away. When the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell on Abram, and look, a terror of great darkness fell on him. And he said to Abram, "Know for certain that your descendants will live as foreigners in a land that is not theirs, and they will be enslaved there, and they will oppress them 400 years. But I will also judge that nation whom they will serve, and afterward they will come out with many possessions. But you will go to your fathers in peace. You will be buried in a good old age. In the 4th generation they will come here again, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet complete." It came to pass that, when the sun went down and it was dark, look, a smoking fire pot and a flaming torch passed between these pieces. On that day God made a covenant with Abram, saying, "To your descendants I have given this land, from the river of Egypt to the great river, the river Perath, the Kenites, the Kenizzites, the Cadmonites, the Hethites, the Perizzites, the Rephaim, the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Hivites, the Girgashites, and the Jebusites." Genesis chapter 16. Now Sarai, Abram's wife, bore him no children, but she had an Egyptian servant whose name was Hagar. Sarai said to Abram, "Look now, God has prevented me from bearing. Please go in to my servant. It may be that I will obtain children by her." Abram listened to the voice of Sarai. So Sarai, Abram's wife, took Hagar the Egyptian, her servant, after Abram had lived 10 years in the land of Canaan, and gave her to Abram her husband to be his wife. He slept with Hagar, and she conceived. When she saw that she had conceived, she looked on her mistress with contempt. Sarai said to Abram, "This wrong is your fault. I gave my servant to your embrace, and when she saw that she had conceived, she despised me. God judge between me and you." But Abram said to Sarai, "Look, your maid is in your hand. Do to her whatever is good in your sight." Sarai dealt harshly with her, so she fled from her presence. And the angel of God found her by a spring of water in the desert, by the spring on the way to Shur. And he said, "Hagar, servant of Sarai, where did you come from, and where are you going?" And she said, "I am running away from the presence of my mistress Sarai." The angel of the Lord said to her, "Return to your mistress, and submit yourself to her authority." The angel of the Lord said to her, "I will greatly multiply your descendants, so that they will be too numerous to count." Then the angel of God said to her, "Look, you are with child and will bear a son. You are to name him Ishmael, because God has heard your affliction. He will be like a wild donkey among men. His hand will be against every man, and every man's hand against him. And he will live away from all of his brothers." And she called his name, the one who spoke to her, "You are El Roi," for she said, "Here I have seen the one who sees me." Therefore the well was called Bir Lahai Roi. Look, it is between Kadesh and Bird. Hagar bore a son for Abram. Abram called the name of his son, whom Hagar bore, Ishmael. Abram was 86 years old when Hagar bore Ishmael to Abram. Genesis chapter 17. When Abram was 99 years old, God appeared to him and said to him, "I am El Shaddai. Walk before me and be blameless. I will make my covenant between me and you, and will multiply you greatly." Then Abram fell face down, and God talked with him, saying, "As for me, look, my covenant is with you. You will be the father of a multitude of nations. Neither will your name any more be called Abram, but your name will be Abraham. For I will make you the father of a multitude of nations. I will make you exceedingly fruitful, and I will make nations of you. Kings will come out of you. I will establish my covenant between me and you and your descendants after you throughout their generations as an everlasting covenant, to be God to you and to your descendants after you. I will give to you and to your descendants after you the land of your sojournings, all the land of Canaan, as an everlasting possession, and I will be their God." God said to Abraham, "As for you, you are to keep my covenant, you and your descendants after you throughout their generations. This is my covenant, which you shall keep, between me and you and your descendants after you. Every male among you shall be circumcised. You shall be circumcised in the flesh of your foreskin. It will be a sign of the covenant between me and you. He who is 8 days old will be circumcised among you, every male throughout your generations. He who is born in the house or bought with money from any foreigner who is not of your descendants. He who is born in your house and he who is bought with your money must be circumcised. My covenant will be in your flesh as an everlasting covenant, and the uncircumcised male who is not circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin on the 8th day, that person shall be cut off from his people. He has broken my covenant. God said to Abraham, "As for Sarai your wife, you shall not call her name Sarai, but her name will be Sarah. And I will bless her, and moreover I will give you a son by her. And I will bless her, and she will be a mother of nations. Kings of peoples will come from her. Then Abraham fell on his face and laughed and said in his heart, Will a child be born to him who is 100 years old? Will Sarah, who is 90 years old, give birth? Abraham said to God, Oh, that Ishmael might live before you. And God said, Truly, Sarah your wife will bear you a son, and you are to name him Isaac. And I will establish my covenant with him as an everlasting covenant, and with his descendants after him. As for Ishmael, I have heard you. Look, I have blessed him, and will make him fruitful, and will multiply him exceedingly. He will become the father of 12 princes, and I will make him a great nation. But my covenant I establish with Isaac, whom Sarah will bear to you at this set time next year. When he finished talking with him, God went up from Abraham. Abraham took Ishmael his son, all who were born in his house, and all who were bought with his money, every male among the men of Abraham's house, and circumcised the flesh of their foreskin in the same day, as God had said to him. Abraham was 99 years old when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin. Ishmael, his son, was 13 years old when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin. In the same day, both Abraham and Ishmael, his son, were circumcised. All the men of his house, those born in the house, and those bought with money from a foreigner, were circumcised with him. Genesis chapter 18. And God appeared to him by the oaks of Mamre, as he sat at the entrance to the tent in the heat of the day. He lifted up his eyes and looked, and saw that 3 men stood opposite him. When he saw them, he ran to meet them from the entrance of the tent, and bowed himself to the earth, and said, My Lord, if now I have found favor in your sight, please do not go on past your servant. Now let a little water be brought, and wash your feet, and rest yourselves under the tree. I will get a bit of food so you may refresh yourselves. After that you may go your way, now that you have come to your servant. They said, Very well, do as you have said. Abraham hurried into the tent to Sarah and said, Quickly, get 3 measures of fine flour, knead it, and make bread. Abraham ran to the herd and took a tender and good calf and gave it to the servant. And he hurried to prepare it. He took curds, milk, and the calf that he had prepared and set it before them. He stood by them under the tree, and they ate. They said to him, Where is Sarah, your wife? He said, See, in the tent. Then he said, I will certainly return to you at the time of life. Look, Sarah, your wife, will have a son. Sarah heard from the entrance of the tent, which was behind him. Now Abraham and Sarah were old, well advanced in age. Sarah was past the age of childbearing. Sarah laughed within herself, saying, After I have grown old will I have pleasure, my husband being old also. And God said to Abraham, Why did Sarah laugh, saying, Will I really bear a child when I am old? Is anything too difficult for God? At the set time I will return to you at the time of life, and Sarah will have a son. But Sarah denied it, saying, I did not laugh, for she was afraid. He said, No, but you did laugh. The men rose up from there and looked toward Sodom. Abraham went with them to see them on their way. And God said, Will I hide from Abraham what I am about to do, seeing that Abraham will surely become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth will be blessed through him? For I have made myself known to him, so that he may command his children and his household after him, that they may keep the way of God to do righteousness and justice, so that God may bring to Abraham that which he has spoken to him. And God said, because the cry of Sodom and Gomorrah is great, and because their sin is so grievous, I will go down now and see whether they have done entirely according to the outcry which has come to me, and if not, I will know. The men turned from there and went towards Sodom, but Abraham remained standing before God. Abraham drew near and said, "Will you sweep away the righteous with the wicked? What if there are 50 righteous within the city? Will you sweep it away and not spare the place for the 50 righteous who are in it? Be it far from you to do things like that, to kill the righteous with the wicked, so that the righteous should be like the wicked. May that be far from you. Shouldn't the judge of all the earth do right?" And God said, "If I find in Sodom 50 righteous within the city, then I will spare all the place for their sake." Abraham answered, "Look, I have taken it on myself to speak to the Lord, I who am but dust and ashes. What if there will lack 5 of the 50 righteous? Will you destroy all the city for lack of 5? He said, "I will not destroy it if I find 45 there." He spoke to him yet again and said, "What if there are 40 found there?" He said, "I will not do it for the 40's sake." He said, "Oh, do not let the Lord be angry, and I will speak." "What if there are 30 found there?" He said, "I will not do it if I find 30 there." He said, "Look, I have taken it on myself to speak to the Lord. What if there are 20 found there?" He said, "I will not destroy it for the 20's sake." He said, "Oh, do not let the Lord be angry, and I will speak just once more." "What if 10 are found there?" He said, "I will not destroy it for the 10's sake." When he finished speaking with Abraham, he left, and Abraham returned to his place. Genesis chapter 19. The 2 angels came to Sodom at evening. Lot sat in the gate of Sodom. Lot saw them and rose up to meet them. He bowed himself with his face to the earth, and he said, "See now, my lords, please turn aside into your servant's house and stay all night and wash your feet. Then you may rise up early and go on your way." They said, "No, but we will stay in the street all night." But he urged them so strongly that they came in with him and entered into his house. He made them a feast and baked unleavened bread, and they ate. But before they could lie down to sleep, the men of the city, the men of Sodom, surrounded the house, both young and old, all the people from every quarter. They called to Lot and said to him, "Where are the men who came in to you this night? Bring them out to us, that we may have sex with them." Lot went out to them at the entrance and shut the door behind him. He said, "Please, my brothers, do not act so wickedly. Look, I have 2 virgin daughters. Please let me bring them out to you, and you may do to them what seems good to you. Only do not do anything to these men, because they have come under the protection of my roof." They said, "Stand back." They said, "This one fellow came in to live as a foreigner, and he appoints himself a judge. Now will we deal worse with you than with them?" They pressed hard on the man Lot and drew near to break the door. But the men reached out their hands and pulled Lot into the house to them and shut the door. They struck the men who were at the door of the house with blindness, both small and great, so that they were unable to find the door. The men said to Lot, "Do you have anybody else here? Sons-in-law, your sons, your daughters, and whoever you have in the city?" Bring them out of the place, for we will destroy this place, because the outcry against them has grown great before God that he has sent us to destroy it." Lot went out and spoke to his sons-in-law, who were pledged to marry his daughters, and said, "Get up, get out of this place, for God will destroy the city." But he seemed to his sons-in-law to be joking. When the morning came, then the angels hurried Lot along, saying, "Get up, take your wife and your 2 daughters who are here, and get out, lest you be swept away in the punishment of the city." But he hesitated. So the men grabbed his hand, his wife's hand, and his 2 daughters' hands, God being merciful to him. And they took him out and set him outside of the city. It came to pass, when they had taken them out, that he said, "Escape for your life. Do not look behind you, and do not stay anywhere in the plain. Escape to the mountains, or you will be swept away." Lot said to them, "Oh, not so, my lord. See now, your servant has found favor in your sight, and you have magnified your loving kindness, which you have shown to me in saving my life. I can't escape to the mountain, lest the disaster overtake me and I die. See now, this city is near to flee to, and it is a little one. Let me escape there. Isn't it a little one? And my life will be saved." He said to him, "Look, I have granted your request concerning this thing also, that I will not overthrow the city of which you have spoken. Hurry, escape there, for I can't do anything until you get there." Therefore the name of the city was called Zohar. The sun had risen on the earth when Lot came to Zohar. Then God rained on Sodom and on Gomorrah sulfur and fire from the sky. He overthrew those cities and all the plain and all the inhabitants of the cities, and that which grew on the ground. But his wife looked back from behind him, and she became a pillar of salt. Abraham got up early in the morning to the place where he had stood before God. He looked toward Sodom and Gomorrah, and toward all the land of the plain, and he saw. And look, the smoke was rising from the land like smoke from a furnace. It happened, when God destroyed the cities of the plain, that God remembered Abraham, and sent Lot out of the middle of the overthrow, when he overthrew the cities in which Lot lived. Lot went up out of Zohar and lived in the mountain, and his 2 daughters with him, for he was afraid to live in Zohar. He lived in a cave with his 2 daughters. The firstborn said to the younger, "Our father is old, and there is not a man in the land to sleep with us according to the custom of all the land. Come, let's make our father drink wine, and we will sleep with him, that we may preserve our family through our father." They made their father drink wine that night, and the firstborn went in and slept with her father. He did not know when she lay down, nor when she arose. It came to pass on the next day that the firstborn said to the younger, "Look, I slept last night with my father. Let us make him drink wine again tonight. You go in and sleep with him, that we may preserve our family through our father." They made their father drink wine that night also. The younger went and slept with him. He did not know when she lay down, nor when she got up. Thus both of Lot's daughters became pregnant by their father. The firstborn bore a son and named him Moab. He is the father of the Moabites to this day. The younger also bore a son and called his name Ben-Ami. He is the father of the people of Ammon to this day. Genesis chapter 20. Abraham traveled from there toward the land of the Negev and lived between Kadesh and Shur. He lived as a sojourner in Gerar. Abraham said about Sarah his wife, "She is my sister." Abimelech king of Gerar sent and took Sarah. But God came to Abimelech in a dream of the night and said to him, "Look, you are a dead man, because of the woman whom you have taken, for she is a man's wife." Now Abimelech had not come near her. He said, "Lord, will you kill even a righteous nation? Did not he tell me she is my sister? Even she herself said, he is my brother. In the integrity of my heart and the innocence of my hands have I done this." God said to him in the dream, "Yes, I know that in the integrity of your heart you have done this, and I also withheld you from sinning against me. Therefore I did not allow you to touch her. Now therefore restore the man's wife. For he is a prophet, and he will pray for you, and you will live, if you do not restore her. Know for sure that you will die, you and all who are yours." Abimelech rose early in the morning and called all his servants and told all these things in their ear. The men were very scared. Then Abimelech called Abraham and said to him, "What have you done to us? How have I sinned against you, that you have brought on me and on my kingdom a great sin? You have done deeds to me that ought not to be done." Abimelech said to Abraham, "What were you thinking to do this thing?" Abraham said, "Because I thought, surely the fear of God is not in this place. So they will kill me because of my wife. Besides, she is indeed my sister, the daughter of my father, but not the daughter of my mother. And she became my wife. It happened when God caused me to wander from my father's house that I said to her, 'This is your kindness which you shall show to me. Everywhere that we go, say of me, he is my brother.' Abimelech took sheep and cattle, male servants and female servants, and gave them to Abraham, and restored Sarah his wife to him. Abimelech said, 'Look, my land is before you. Dwell where it pleases you.' To Sarah he said, 'Look, I have given your brother 1,000 pieces of silver. Look, it is to cover the offense against you before all who are with you. In front of all you are vindicated.' Abraham prayed to God, and God healed Abimelech and his wife and his female servants, and they bore children. For God had made every woman infertile in the household of Abimelech, because of Sarah, Abraham's wife." Genesis chapter 21. Now God visited Sarah as he had said, and did to Sarah as he had spoken. Sarah conceived and bore Abraham a son in his old age, at the set time of which God had spoken to him. Abraham called his son who was born to him, whom Sarah bore to him, Isaac. Abraham circumcised his son Isaac when he was 8 days old, as God had commanded him. Abraham was 100 years old when his son Isaac was born to him. Sarah said, "God has made me laugh. Everyone who hears will laugh with me." She said, "Who would have said to Abraham that Sarah would nurse children? For I have borne him a son in his old age." The child grew and was weaned. Abraham made a great feast on the day that Isaac was weaned. Sarah saw the son of Hagar the Egyptian, whom she had borne to Abraham, mocking. Therefore she said to Abraham, "Cast out this slave woman and her son. For the son of this slave woman will not be heir with my son Isaac." The thing was very grievous in Abraham's sight on account of his son. God said to Abraham, "Do not let it be grievous in your sight because of the boy and because of your slave woman. In all that Sarah says to you, listen to her voice. For from Isaac will your descendants be called." And I will also make a great nation of the son of the slave woman, because he is your offspring. Abraham rose up early in the morning and took food and a skin of water and gave it to Hagar, putting it on her shoulder, and gave her the child and sent her away. She departed and wandered in the wilderness of Beersheba. The water in the skin was gone, and she shoved the boy under one of the shrubs. She went and sat down opposite him, a good way off, about a bow shot away. For she said, "Do not let me see the death of the boy." So she sat across from him, and he wept loudly. And God heard the voice of the boy. And the angel of God called to Hagar from the sky and said to her, "What troubles you, Hagar? Do not be afraid, for God has heard the voice of the boy where he is. Get up, lift up the boy, and hold him by your hand, for I will make him a great nation." God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water. She went and filled the skin with water and gave the boy a drink. God was with the boy, and he grew. He lived in the wilderness and became, as he grew up, an archer. He lived in the wilderness of Paran. His mother got a wife for him from the land of Egypt. It happened at that time that Abimelech and Phicol, the commander of his army, spoke to Abraham, saying, "God is with you in all that you do. Now therefore swear to me here by God that you will not deal falsely with me, nor with my son, nor with my son's son. But according to the kindness that I have done to you, you shall do to me, and to the land in which you have lived as a sojourner." And Abraham said, "I swear." Abraham complained to Abimelech because of a water well which Abimelech's servants had violently taken away. Abimelech said, "I do not know who has done this thing. Neither did you tell me, neither did I hear of it until today." Abraham took sheep and cattle and gave them to Abimelech, and the two of them made a covenant. Abraham set 7 ewe lambs of the flock by themselves. Abimelech said to Abraham, "What do these 7 ewe lambs which you have set by themselves mean?" He said, "You shall take these 7 ewe lambs from my hand, that it may be a witness to me that I have dug this well." Therefore he called that place Beersheba, because they both swore there. So they made a covenant at Beersheba. Abimelech rose up with Phicol, the commander of his army, and they returned into the land of the Philistines. And Abraham planted a tamarisk tree in Beersheba, and called there on the name of the Lord, the everlasting God. Abraham lived as a sojourner in the land of the Philistines many days.